Apostle Cheryl here. Round 2. You know, we're determined. And you also know I can't stand the devil, right? So you all have to hear this testimony. So we're focused on domestic violence, and we've been looking at it from the perspective of a survivor. And we're going to have a discussion, a candid discussion with a survivor on today who has an amazing story to tell. We had some technical difficulties, but now we're back, and we are going to start tagging folks, which is what we do. Get y'all tagged. Y'all can share again, and some of you that work like running behind schedule, you can start. Let me try to get her on here quickly. What is happening right now? Okay. This is so crazy. All right, so if you're on here, go ahead and share and tag, and we're gonna get our guest on so that you can hear her story. Domestic violence is horribly prevalent worldwide. According to the United Nations, they released a report in 2017 in which they stated that the most dangerous place for a woman worldwide is in her own home. Other authorities state that domestic violence is greater within the church than it is outside of the church, and this is across denominational and racial lines. And so what does that mean? That means that we can't point fingers at each other and say that it happens in third world countries and it only happens in the Catholic Church, or it only happens in the Baptist Church or the Southern Baptist Church, or only Muslims have this issue. It is found in every single denomination worldwide. And we believe that the reason that it is so prevalent is because the church is not doing what it's supposed to do. We are supposed to be salt, and we are supposed to be light. And when we get around to doing that, things will get better. Okay, so you said right.
I know.
It's not.
Shoot.
So we're still trying to figure out how to get, how to get you on here. And we've looked it up, and it's not doing what it needs to do. We are determined.
Okay, has she commented?
She's on.
Okay, have her comment.
Okay, so Rosalyn, comment and say something, and then maybe I think should be able to invite you then. So hey, type in a comment. Okay, she did. Right here. Let me see. No. This is really so crazy. Hello, Ro. Hey, everybody that's on. We're trying to invite our guest on, and Facebook is acting crazy. Bear with us. Trying to figure out how to get this to work. Okay, so we are live as we're supposed to be. I tell you what, this makes no sense at all. We've got to figure out a way to...
Okay, what happens if you rotate it this way? Does it give you any other options? No.
I mean, I don't know what that's going to look like.
I know.
I can't do that live.
I know.
My help is about to get hands laid on suddenly.
I'm researching.
Okay. If you all have any suggestions out there, let me know. I'm trying to figure out. Is there any way, I think I've asked you this before, but is there any way, Rosalyn, for you to request to come on? Do you see a way to do that? Because according to what we're reading, we should be able to get you on after you comment, which you have, and it's just not. I believe she can ask to join if she knows how, right? Portia, do you have any idea how she can do that? That's the problem, because I can't find a way to invite her. Does anybody know? We have a Facebook aficionado on here. Okay, so hey, Prophet Roger, we're having problems getting our guest on. You have any idea how to do that? I don't see an option to invite her. And I don't think she's seeing an option to ask to be invited. And so weird. Pin comment, delete comment. Block. It's not giving me an option to invite. That is so interesting. I don't really even see anything else to push. Any other button? Nothing else to let's see. Nope. Hey Misty, hey V. So we are having, I've been looking to see, okay, she says she's been looking to see. You don't see it. I don't see it either. That is so crazy. That is so crazy. Okay. So this is what we're going to do, because we will not be defeated. Okay. I really wanted to bring her on live, but she's on here. And so let's just have a discussion. Is that okay with you, Rosalyn? Let's talk. It will involve you typing. I really wanted them to hear from you. But this story needs to be told. Let me see. So maybe, hey Lisa. So Lisa, we've done this before. So we're having some technological struggles, but you know, I don't give up. I don't know nothing about doing that. When we did our live, how did we get you on? Do you remember? Because I'm not seeing an option to get our speaker on today. And if push comes to shove, I'm going to adapt and overcome as I learned in the military. So I can call Rosalyn on the phone, and I can put her on speakerphone, and we can do a combination of that and typing. So if y'all can listen and read at the same time, okay, then we can just do it that way, because I'm determined. So see, now I know in my spirit, this is what I know. There is someone on here that absolutely needs to hear this testimony, right? There's somebody on here that needs to hear this because of where they are in their life, or what they're about to walk into in their life. And so we're going to get this done. So Rosalyn, are you okay? Let's see. Lisa, did you say anything about how we got you on? Because we had problems at first, but then we got you on here. We did. So what I think I'm going to do is give you a call, if that's okay with you, and put you on speaker so that they can hear your response. So you all won't be able to see her, but you'll be able to see me. Okay? Okay, Rosalyn, you can hear. Okay, so that's good. So what we're going to do is to our speaker. Is it okay with you if I call you and put you on speaker? And then I can talk to you that way. Let me know. Let me know. Okay, this is almost funny. Let me tell y'all something. You have to develop a stance in life where you don't get flustered by things that would normally fluster folks. So I'm going to call our speaker, Rosalyn Atkinson, right now. Let's see if I can get her on the phone. And if so, put her on speakerphone.
Hello, yes.
Hey.
I was getting my tablet so I can have, because I was on my phone. So
Okay.
I need to, come in on my tablet.
Okay. This is going to be good. You know how I know it's going to be good?
It has to be. Yeah, there's too much interference.
Hey, this is
It
just...
can't do anything but be good.
This is tomfoolery. That's what this is. So, for those
I
of you...
looked, I Googled, I did
Right.
everything.
And I know I've done it before. There's like no option on my... There's no option. I can't ask you
Right.
nothing. I'm like, no, what kind of foolishness? Anyway, undaunted, that's what we are. Okay? And that's one thing about... That's one thing about a survivor. You get on the other side of your calamity, and if it hasn't destroyed you, and if it did, then you wouldn't be a survivor, right? Then there's a resilience, and it's just like, okay, so there's another way to do this. Okay, so can you all hear her? Because I have her on the phone. Somebody let me know if you can hear.
Can they hear? Yes, I see you watching that.
Can you all hear her? Can you hear her? Can you hear her? Can you hear her?
But wait a minute, I might have to get on my computer. Because this laptop, this iPad ain't giving me where I could type.
Right.
In the name. Well, I'm seeing you perfectly.
Right.
But it's not giving me where I can type.
But you can't type nothing, huh? Y'all go on and do some of those laughing emojis. Go ahead and do some laughing emojis so that the enemy knows.
Just hold on, because I'm going over to the laptop.
Okay.
We're going to figure this out in a minute. Okay, hold on, y'all.
Okay. Who this is funny to me. This is funny to me. This is funny. Like, I can't even be upset because it's just so absurd. I want to say, really, devil? You thought that's all you had to do? So again, I'm going to recap. Hey, Dr. Jen. So we've been having some interference, technological and spiritual, which we think is hilarious. So this is why I'm asking everybody to do the laughing emojis. Okay, this is how you handle what is supposed to be a crisis. We have an assignment. This message needs to be heard. It's going to be heard. So we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. I've got the speaker on the phone, and y'all let me know if you can hear her when we start. And y'all get to just look at me as opposed to looking at both of us.
Oh, you can hear you.
And we're going to just go from there. But this message is going to get out. So now I'm excited. You want to know why I'm excited? Because I know with all this interference that somebody absolutely needs to hear what we're going to say today. They need it right now. They need it right now. So you all hang in there, share, like, when it's over, do a watch party and all of that good stuff. And somebody's going to get blessed, okay? Somebody's going to get blessed. Somebody's going to be blessed real good. All right? So what we've been talking about is domestic violence from the perspective of a survivor. And no two circumstances are exactly the same because you've got two completely different individuals involved in each set of circumstances, okay? So that's what we're going to look at. And I think that it's good to share when you reach a place where you're healthy enough to share without re-traumatizing yourself. For more than one reason. It helps to strengthen you and to undergird you in your own walk, but also it helps to encourage others, and it's a light to others, no matter where they are in their situation, whether they're considering, leaving a situation right now, whether they're just beginning to entertain the thought that maybe they're being mistreated somehow, or if they've been gone for a while and have never really processed the hurt and the damage that they've experienced in that relationship. I think it's important that once we come out of a thing, that we reach back and help somebody else, because it helps to solidify the progress that we've made in our own journey. Okay, it really, really does, and it's rewarding. It's rewarding to know that you've been a help to someone else who is struggling in a way that you're familiar with. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about our speaker while she gets in position, and I just love her because she's just rolling with it, just like I am. Like it's like, okay, this has to happen. This is what we know. Okay, this has to happen. This might be the best video ever done because because of all of the interference. So can you all hear her? Can you all hear her? So let me tell you, we've never met, right? But I feel like I've known her for a while. The Lord is good because I just know her by the Spirit, and that's the best way to know people, because then you get to know who they actually are and not the face that they present to you or whatever. And so I was connected to her by a mutual friend who told me, you're going to love her because she's amazing. And then she said, and she's a prophet, and like she's a real one, which I thought was hilarious. I mean, it's sad on the one hand, right? That you have to differentiate between the real and the not so much. But anyway, I thought that was hilarious. And the fact that she said she's a real one, I knew for this person to say she was a real one, that she was a real one. Okay. And then the Lord really confirmed that when I spoke to her. And so I just love her. And I've never even been in the same room with her. Okay. I just love her. And I just love what God has done in her and what he's doing through her. So she is a prophet in the Lord's church. She's a minister of the gospel. She's a mom. She's a wife. She's an author. Okay, so let me do this. This is her book. It's The Unloved Wife, okay, by Rosalyn Atkinson. The Unloved Wife. Let me tell y'all something. I stayed up all night and read this book. I don't know what I started reading this book at like 9 o'clock at night, and I read until 4 something in the morning because I just couldn't even put it down. I was just like, wow, this is deep. this is something else right here, okay? And people need to hear this. And so, again, it's called The Unloved Wife, Rosalyn Atkinson, and she's amazing. So I want her to share her story, and let's do a quick test, and you say something, Prophet Rosalyn, and they can let me know if they can hear you or not.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Greetings in the matchless name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Can everybody hear me?
If you can hear her, send up some hearts or likes or say something. Can you hear her? Can you hear her? You've been waiting for this live. Listen, Elder Sarah, us too. And the shenanigans, I can't even begin to explain the shenanigans we have been through just trying to go live. So now we're going to do it the Fred Sanford way, okay? Those of y'all old enough to know who Fred Sanford is, you just figure it out. You get some duct tape, and you get some duct tape, and you tape that thing together, and you make it work. So that's what we going to make it work. And it's funny to me because years ago, if something like this had happened, I would be so frustrated and exasperated, right? But it's hilarious. I'm trying not to just burst out laughing. I'm trying to burst out laughing because this is just that doggone funny to me at this point. The devil is so stupid. He's so stupid. Okay? He studies you your whole life and he learns nothing. He doesn't. Like, when is the last time was he able to get me upset about something like this? I just find another way. I take it as a personal check. Just find another way. There's a way. And thank you for the interference, because now I know how powerful this live is going to be. So I'm going to ask you all again to share. And rather than seeing both of us, you just get to look at me okay? But you can hear her. And so we're gonna have a conversation, all right? Blessings. Hey. We're gonna have a conversation and on the phone, and I got the phone where you all can hear her. You all told me that you can hear her, and she and I are gonna have a conversation, so y'all can just settle into your seat, get your tea or whatever you need to get, your popcorn, whatever you need to get, and pay attention to this discussion. And if you have a history of domestic violence, I want you to think about how this experience that we're talking about parallels yours, or how it's different from yours. And if you're in a situation right now and you feel disconcerted, you feel unhappy, you feel sad, you're battling this, depression or frustration or anxiety, think about the things that she shares, and are any of those things present in your current situation, okay? Hey, Vic, listen, we done had some shenanigans on here. Vic, the shenanigans, listen. So I got Prophet Rosalyn on the phone, because we ain't stupid. See, we figure out how to get around an obstacle. And I'm going to ask her questions, because we couldn't get her on here. The devil remains a lie. I'm going to talk to her, so y'all just get your tea or whatever and listen to our conversation. If you have a question that you want to ask, you can go ahead and type it in. And if we're able to, then I'll read it out loud, or she may even see it herself, and we can respond in kind. If not, if you have any questions or comments later, we can go back in when it's over and respond to your questions. All right? So let's get going. So I've already introduced her. Vic Ford is the one who connected us and informed me that she was a real prophet. Okay, so then I knew for Vic to say she was a real prophet, that she had to be a real one. Okay, she wasn't no fake one, for real. And they are out there. They're out there,
Yes, they are.
So feel free to share. This is gonna be good. Because we've had too much attention from that other critter. So this is gonna be good. And so we're excited. We're excited about it. And honestly, going through this, I'm excited because of how much I've grown in the past 20 years. Was the time I'd have thrown the phone, the computer, stuff would be ricocheting off the walls around here. What you mean I can't go live? Okay, so it's funny to me. It is funny to me. This is funny. Okay, so like I said, Rosalyn Atkinson she's a prophet in the Lord's church. She's a ministry gift. She loves the Lord with all of her heart, and there won't be any question about that if you hear her story. Okay, she is the author of The Unloved Wife, and I'll have her to let you know where you can get it before we end this conversation. I started reading this book one night at like 8 o'clock, 8:30, and I was up until like 4 something, 4:45 in the morning, because every time I said, okay, I'm going to stop right here, right? I'm going to stop right here. It's late. Stop right here and pick it back up. I'm like, no, let me just keep reading. I just kept reading and kept reading. And you can tell when I love a book, because I write all. I see that. I wrote inside the book. I had comments in the book and questions in the book, and at one point I wrote "shut up" in the book. I did in the middle of the night. Now, this is not a topic that I'm unfamiliar with. I have a history of it as an adult, more than one time. Okay, and I had a history of it as a child, and so I could identify with her story on so many levels. And so I'm going to let her tell us a little bit about herself, and then I'll ask her some questions, but just settle back and just know that we're just having a conversation, and you're just listening to a conversation between two women who God has connected in the realm of the spirit. We've never even met in person. Okay, but it's just amazing. So, okay, Rosalyn, go ahead. What is it that you want us to know about you?
Well, hello everybody. I want y'all to know that I love God with everything that I have, and that He has been exceptionally good to me. I got saved, just a little bit background. I got saved when I was 16 years old, only being in the church. That was my second time. I was raised a Muslim. I went to the Muslim school. I prayed to the east. I believed Allah was God. I did all of that. I could speak every Muslim prayer in fluent Arabic. Today, I only know what everybody else know. Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam. That's it. That's all. And when I gave my heart to Jesus, I met the Lord Jesus Christ. When I did that, I came home and I told my father, my Muslim father, that was inundated in Islam. He was the Muslim that sold the bean pies on the corner and the Muhammad Speaks. I remember as a little girl sitting on top of Muhammad Speaks in the back seat, getting in his car. And I came home because the pastor said, go home. And he really didn't say go home, but he said, go tell somebody what happened to you today, that you got saved. And so I really didn't know what getting saved meant, but I knew that I had a bona fide, authentic experience. And I went home and I told my Muslim family that I got saved. And I remember my father's words to me were, you got saved from what? And so that started on the journey with him being so upset with me and just being persecuted because I met Jesus, and I didn't know what to do with this, but he could not tell me that my experience was not real, okay? And so eventually my mom got saved, my sisters got saved, and thank God 4 days before my father closed his eyes on this side 3 years ago, he gave his heart to God.
Amen.
And to the Lord Jesus with his own mouth confessed Jesus Christ. And so as a young girl, you know, I got saved at 16. I had this boyfriend that I absolutely loved. I thought when the man woke up, the sun came out, and when he went to sleep is when the sun set. And I'm telling y'all, I was in love with him as a young girl could be. And I would say to him with my prophetic self, not knowing that I was prophetic, I would say to him, I met him when I was 13, he was 16, and I would tell him, you're going to be my husband. We're going to have 3 kids. We have 3 sons. I used to tell him that all the time. We're going to get married. We're going to have 3 kids. We're going to live a wonderful life, blah, 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 blah. And long story short, we got married 11 years later. When I was 24, he was 26, and he was a great boyfriend. However, I definitely got to interject this, is that I saw signs. But as a young woman, you know, the love superseded the anger, the bits and pieces of anger that I saw. The 2 times, and I'm going to say 3 because you don't remember everything, that he hit me when we were kids. I remember 2 vividly, but I'm going to throw a 3rd one in just for good measure because I'm sure it's one I missed. But 2 was distinct, and I can remember them just like it happened yesterday that he smacked me on these 2 occasions. But I kept going because all of these other things just kind of, you know, overrode those 2 abuses. We got married. We had a huge wedding, beautiful wedding, all of that. And I remember 5 days after we got married, and we moved into our apartment. And we were putting an apartment together. I was so happy. This is the first time I left home. This is the first time I'm on my own. I am married. I'm a newlywed. We got our own apartment. So we bringing things in. And, you know, we had decided that he was going to take the back part of the house and I was going to take the front part, which the back part only consisted of the bedroom, the closet, and the bathroom. Because we in a 1-bedroom, well, actually 1.5-bedroom apartment. And I remember coming out, and it was hot that day, very hot. And coming out of, I went to the bathroom, and he came out of the bedroom and made a sandwich. And when I came out of the bedroom, I went in the kitchen, and I saw the stuff left on the counter. And, you know, the salad dressing, the bread, all that. And I'm like, he was sitting there on the couch. And I was like, hey, it's hot. I said, you can't leave this stuff out here like this if it go bad. I said, you got to clean up your mess. And he said, I'll do it. I'll get to it. And I ended up cleaning it up. And from that point to the day we separated, I was cleaning up after him. And I remember asking him, we got to finish getting the rest of the stuff out of this car and out of this truck. And he told me he wasn't doing no more, and sat there and watched me carry boxes, watch me take empty boxes out, bring new boxes, while he sat there and watched me finish putting the entire apartment together.
Okay, hold it right there. Hold it right there. So let me just recap, because I'm like, and we've had this conversation, and I'm ready to fall out of my chair all over again. Okay, and I'm ready. Look, I read the book, I had the conversation, I'm ready to fall out this chair yet again, because it's just like mind blowing, and it's interesting the clarity that you get when you step out of it, and you can look back on it, and it's like, what in the world? What was that? Right. So you grew up in a Muslim family, like a. For real, like not just not just like for real. The bean pies being made, and Muhammad speaks being sold, and praying to the east, and all of that.
We couldn't eat cornbread because the lard was in it. We couldn't eat Jiffy Mix. My mother could not use Jiffy Mix.
Wow.
The lard was in it.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how strict it
was. So they observed the Muslim faith strictly. Now let's talk just a little bit about. Because oftentimes what can happen, and not always, it has something to do with our childhood, right? With our upbringing. And it can be that you grew up in an abusive setting, or it can be that you grew up in Disneyland, and so you find the bad boy or the bad girl, you find them tantalizing and interesting because you've never been exposed to that before. And no one's ever talked to you about it before. So it can be either one of those two scenarios. So let's talk a little bit about what your relationship was like with your father and with your mother. What was that like? What was that dynamic like? Because it's interesting that you met him. I'm not going to say your abuser, because I just don't like that term. It's like you own him and no, you don't. Okay. And if you escaped him, you sure ain't trying to be connected to him. So he showed signs of being abusive early on. You met him when you were 13, right? Did you say 13? Felt madly head over heels. Now, people will often say, "Oh no, that's just puppy love." That is some of the purest love that you will ever come into contact with, because it comes from a pure place, because there's a decision to trust, because a teenager is not jaded and has not been through all that the rest of us has been through, and they still got stars in their eyes, and they still believe in fairy tales and all that good stuff. So when someone that age invests emotionally, it is powerful. And for them, from a clinical perspective, and so I'm speaking as a therapist now, from a clinical perspective, it feels like whatever they're feeling, like it's going to always be that intense. It's going to always be that amazing. And if it's bad, it's going to always be that bad. I mean, it's just like an all or nothing kind of thing from an emotional standpoint. And then psychologically and emotionally, that they're not finished developing. So it kind of rotates back around to what kind of a household did you grow up in? What were the dynamics like between your parents and between you and your father and things like that?
Well, my mother, I actually adored my parents. I adored my mother. I adored my father. My father was my hero. He treated me like a queen. I'm telling y'all, I was a spoiled child. I was my father's, let me just give you a little backdrop on that. I was my father's first living biological child. My parents had a son a couple years before me who came out breached. And so when they had me, I was just doted upon. I was the first with his two brothers. I was the first grandchild, so I was the first in that regard. And so, I could do no wrong. My father was coming to my rescue, and I was bad as all get out. And I was like, I'm going to tell and I'm the only one that called him father. I'm going to tell my father. Wait till my father get home. I remember standing in the yard to pray y'all with them kids. Y'all just wait till my father get home. And my mother had two daughters prior to my father. I have two sisters older than me that had their own father. And my father helped raise them, but these two stepgirls
Mm-hmm.
that, in my opinion, and today and even as a child, I knew that he did not treat them the same way that he treated me.
Okay.
I saw it.
You recognize
Okay.
that
And
even
so,
as a child.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as a child, I used that.
Okay.
I used that for my advantage.
Well, now that's transparent.
And so, I'm going to be as transparent as I absolutely can.
Amen.
I promise you,
Amen.
that's just who I am. And I used it for my advantage. And so I was his favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I was doted upon. I was loved. I had anything and everything that I wanted. I just had this conversation with my current husband yesterday. We were talking about Valentine's Day, and I told him, I said, you know what's sad? I said, I can't remember my father buying my mother something for Valentine's Day,
Mm-hmm.
but I can remember him bringing me things for Valentine's Day.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Wow.
And so my father was not kind to my mother. He was not kind at all to her. And she loved the very ground that he walked on.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember as a child, I would watch their relationship and I would think, why would she take that? Why would she be bothered with that? And I would say to myself, I don't want a man like him. And then so I was conflicted because as much as he loved me, I did not want a husband.
Right.
Like the husband that I saw that he was to my mother.
Okay.
So that was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that looked like my father, when I began to like boys, I didn't like the bad boy.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the boy with the do, with the ways and the process.
Right.
Standing on the corner. I gravitated to quiet men that I thought that those men would be kind and thoughtful and
Mm-hmm.
giving and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that was boisterous and loud, I don't want nothing to do with that.
Right.
And so that's what my ex-husband was. He was a quiet man, and when we were children, he was thoughtful. He was kind. He was considerate when it came to me. So all of those attributes that I needed, I just wanted them. I needed those.
Right.
He had when we were dating, but as soon as we said I do,
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling y'all, I remember shutting that door to that apartment and thinking to myself, and I wrote it in the book just like this, because this is how I thought it. Who in the hell is this?
Right.
That's just the way who is this? Because this was not the person that helped me clean up my mother's house. And you go do the bathroom, I'm going to do the kitchen so we can go to the movies. He was that person.
Right.
I didn't know this person that was sitting on that couch watching me carry them boxes, kicking the box in the hallway because I can't pick it up. So we got more strength in our legs as women because we bear children.
Right.
And so I'm kicking it and, all of that. I didn't know who that person was. And so from that point, it got progressively worse.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people this all the time. I was not beaten every day. I did what I wanted to do. I was never beat up. You know what I'm saying? But I was so emotionally abused and verbally abused.
Mm-hmm.
Like he never called me out my name, but he was so mean and nasty to me. Any conversation, it was just always heightened, always aggressive, always. But when people were around, it wasn't like that. So this man, for real, is a sociopath. Because out in public, he was a 5-star general.
Mm-hmm.
He drove for RTA for 24 years and his shirt was decorated with all kind of buttons and pins. He had accommodations like he was a 5-star general.
Right.
He would wait for people. He would be so kind and thoughtful and help people off the bus and make sure they get their connections and all of this. And people loved him. And Christmas time and his birthday would come home with people just giving him cards and so grateful. And they would call, RTA and tell them how wonderful he was. And then he would come in our house and could be pouring him a glass of water. And I slide my glass over and said, can you pour me a glass too? And he would put the pitcher on the counter and say, pour it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I got none of that.
Right.
But that's what I saw with my mom and dad.
Okay.
I saw her go beyond. I saw her go the second mile, the 250th mile. I saw her take things that no woman ever should. I saw her tolerate speech and behavior that nobody should have. Nobody should. When somebody loves you, let me tell you what love does all the time. Love always gives. God told us that. For God so loved the world. Did he do what he gave?
You fading out. You there?
We here?
Yeah. There you
I'm
go.
here.
Okay.
Love always gives. Even when you have made me upset. I love you. I know I'm not going to leave you. I know I'm not going to divorce you. So why am I talking nasty and mean and derogatory to you? Why am I just trifling when it comes to you? But everybody else, you're kind. So that is called for me a choice. You choose to be. I will never forget. This is God's honest truth. I will never forget this day. I was washing dishes, and just out of nowhere, I saw God just gave me a vision. I saw him driving the bus and waiting a few minutes past the time that he should for this woman to get to the bus. Right? And so when he came home, I was sitting in the living room, which was rare for me. And he came in there and he sat down, and I asked him how was his day, and he said it was okay. And I said to him, who was the woman you wait for? You thought he saw the ghost of Christmas past, present?
How she know
that? What you talking about? I said the woman. I said, you wait for her. You wait for her to get on your bus? I said, who is that? And he is looking, puzzled. And I'm saying, and I say to him, I don't think nothing going on with y'all. I just want to know who she is. And so he was like, well, it's a lady that works at the Federal Building downtown. He said, and when I took on this route, she asked me, would I wait? Because I am her connection. The next connection makes her late for work, and the connection before her gets her there like 45 minutes prior to, and she has to get her kids on the school bus. And I told her, that I would do it for her. And he said to me, how did you know that? And I said, the Lord showed it to me. I said, but I want you to treat me like you treat that woman.
And his response?
I couldn't get that. And his response was, oh, you just tripping. You just tripping. I'm just doing my job. I said, well, do your job with me. I'm telling y'all, it was just, and here's the thing about people in church. My ex-husband was the loudest hallelujah in the church. He spoke in tongues louder than anybody in there. I'm telling you. He was so, I'm talking about a man in praise and worship, just hallelujah, God. We don't see that. We see men worship and all of that, but being loud and boisterous, that's rare. And I remember we were having a revival, and I invited some people from our job, and this one girl came, and when service was over, she asked me, she said, because she had never met him, and she said, who was that man worshiping God like that? She said, oh my God, he was just on fire for God and everything. And I told her, I said, now she don't even know me real good like this.
Right.
And I said, that was my husband. I said, but girl, that don't mean a thing. I said, because when we get home, he won't even have me a napkin that he can be holding too.
Wow.
That was the truth.
So you said a couple of things. First of all, you all hit likes and hearts or something so that I know that you can still hear her, because it's important that you be able to hear. So if you take a second, hey NJ, if you take a second and hit the thumbs up and hearts or something so that we know that you can still hear, then that would be awesome. And so for those of you who have joined in a few minutes late, thank you all. So it looks like you all can hear. I am having a conversation. The enemy thought he had us, but joke's on him. So what we're doing is I've called her on my phone. I'm using what I call the Fred Sanford method. You get some duct tape and you make it work and you keep it moving. So I have her on speakerphone. And so you all can't see her, but I want you to hear her story, and I want you to hear it from her. And it's so fascinating. It's so fascinating. And I want you to listen for similarities in your own situation, whether it's a current situation or a situation that you came out years ago, because a lot of times it's easier to see when you can hear someone else's story, okay? And so she has known him since she was 13 years old, fell madly in love with him, and I've talked to you about how intense that is when kids experience love. It's incredibly intense. It's all consuming. You can't imagine it not being there. Whatever they feel very intensely. They don't have all these filters that we have. They're not jaded like grown folk. They get stars in their eyes, and that's it. And she described it as she thought the sun rose when he got up and it set when he went to bed. Okay, so that's how much she loved him. And then 11 years later, they got married. And so it doesn't have to be that it's someone that you haven't known your entire life. And so this is how the enemy gets some folk. It's someone that's been planted from the time that you were young. They get a certain kind of trust. They get it because they've grown up with you. And they know things about you that other people couldn't possibly know because they didn't walk through it with you. Right? One of my best friends from when I was about 14, 15 years old is on this live right now. And she knows me differently than anybody else that knows me because they didn't know me when I was 14 and 15. They didn't know me when I was in my formative years, okay? And so our relationship is different from my relationship with anybody else, all right? And so there's a certain part of your heart that people that you've grown up with have access to that other people don't. There's a certain part, there's a trust that is extended to them almost without question because they know you. They knew you before you got to be who you are right now, okay? Everybody else likes you or loves you because of who they perceive you to be right now. But they don't know what your experience was growing up. And so it's a different kind of relationship. And so it's not, why am I emphasizing that? Because it's not always that this is someone that somebody met on the dating site and they was on the rebound from another. Oftentimes it's not like that. And that's what makes it so potentially devastating because of the trust that's been invested in them. Now, Prophet Rosalyn describes a couple of times that he smacked her even when they were kids. And that was overridden. We also talked about her family. She's raised in a strict Muslim family. They observed the Muslim faith. They sold bean pies, they made bean pies, they sold Muhammad Speaks, and that they prayed to the east. They were Muslims, not somebody dabbling in it, okay? When she accepted Christ, we've talked about her relationship with her father, who she adored. And it sounds like he adored her, but he was horrible to her mother. We've talked about the fact that her mother endured maltreatment. And something that she said that I thought was interesting is what love always does is that it gives. Okay? When you love someone, your first inclination is not to withhold. It's to give them access, right? Because you've allowed them access to your heart. You allow them access to the things that matter to you. And this is what makes domestic violence so horrific when it occurs, because of the level of betrayal that it involves.
Yes.
You are betrayed at the core of who you are when you truly love someone and they choose, because it's a choice, and they choose to treat you like something stuck on the bottom of their shoe. They choose to treat you as though you have no value. This is a choice. This is a choice. And so just wrapping your head around the fact that I gave this person access to all of me, and this is what I'm getting in return, okay? So some of the early indications that she had, based on just what she shared with us right now, is that he had become physical with her when they were kids. So now let me ask you a question. Before he smacked you the first time, had you noticed him being short with you and speaking with you? Was he more prone to arguing? What happened before he smacked you the first time?
Before he, I've always seen, bits of rage,
okay,
right, in him. From a kid, I did. But I knew, I can't say I knew. I know I say I knew in the book, but now that I'm saying it, I assumed, okay, that I coming from. My ex-husband lost both of his parents when he was 10 years old within a week, within 7 days. And, you know, unfortunately, and still unfortunately now, black people just don't want to get therapy.
Right.
And definitely back then, that was just unheard of. So they coddled him, and they protected him, and they didn't reprimand him, and they didn't tell him you wrong when you were wrong. And had he got his hand whipped a couple times, then maybe he would have turned out differently. But because the grandmother and the auntie, all they knew was this boy, who was the youngest of three brothers, lost his mom and his dad. And from my understanding, he was his mother's baby. And so, you know, he didn't have any repercussions from his actions. So I always thought, like, if I can just show him, you know, and then I can love him past that, he doesn't have to, you know, let that dictate his entire life.
Right.
That he can get past that because, you know, I love him and I got these three boys for him and we have this family we're building and I'm, you know, all in with the family and the motherhood and being the wife and the whole nine. And he wasn't on that. You know, he loved everything that I did. And I used to tell him all the time, everybody need a rise. I wish I had a rise. I was like cooking and cleaning and take care of my kids and paying my bills. And, you know, he worked every day. His check came home every other week. It was directly deposited into our account without incidents all the time. But I was the one that paid the bills. I'm the one that got his credit score to 811. He had a credit score of 811 and would tell me that I wasn't doing nothing. He's like, that ain't nothing. Anybody could do that. See, that's the kind, that's what I dealt with every day. And I say this to women all the time. When you are in a place and you do not want to go home, it is time for you to never go back there.
There you go. Now, you just said something. You just said something.
Never go back there because home is supposed to be a place of peace and solace. And when you're crying, I would be crying. I'm talking about tears coming down my face as I would go down across the street. I would pull in the driveway and boo-hoo, get in the garage and hit the steering wheel like, God, please help me. I didn't want to go home. I would go shopping and sit in Walmart for 2 additional hours, 3 additional hours, and just people watch because I didn't want to go home.
Right.
Nobody is supposed to live like that. And I'm telling you, and then get up on Sunday and go to church. And so we know how to hide in church.
Yes.
And I say this to women all the time. And I say this to people that have friends. Let me tell you, how you gonna know what is going on in somebody's life? All you gotta do is pay attention in a woman's life. When you have a married couple and she is silent, she don't say anything. We just assume that everything is wonderful in their relationship. But let me tell you, when somebody is being treated well, somebody knows it. If you have friends, they're in a relationship, and the husband or wife, they never spend any time together. They never go to the movie. They never go to dinner. They never go bowling. They never go sit on the park bench. They never sit on the front porch. He never gives her anything. He don't give her anything for her birthday, Flag Day, you know, Veterans Day, no day. He never gives just nothing.
No recognition.
None. Whatsoever. Every time you see her, she is by herself. I will never forget the day that I went to the movies by myself. We were supposed to go to the movies, and he wouldn't go with me. And I wanted to see the movie, and I went by myself. And when the movie was over, I saw our head deacon and his wife, and they was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I was like, "I'm good, and you?" They was like, "Where Robert?" I was like, "He didn't want to come," because I had stopped covering it. I used to say, "Oh, he's at work, he's tired." I stopped it like, "He didn't want to come. He didn't want to do this," because I got tired of that. And that's a tell-all sign. If 2 people are married, then sooner or later they're supposed to spend some type of time together. They are supposed to do something together. I watch it on social media all the time. I watch it. I'm like, people ain't even paying attention. These folks is married. And what is so amazing, nobody paid attention to me either. I was on social media 2 years before we got a divorce. And you know how they give you your memories? He had 2 birthdays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why? And then when I look at my current husband's birthday shout out, it's about 2 books.
Right. Right.
The difference. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
I never ever said anything about him. When we got a divorce, I had 2 pictures I had to delete. And somebody had tagged me on one of them.
Only 2.
It wasn't even one that I put up.
Only 2 pictures that had to be deleted.
2.
Right.
In 2
right.
years.
Right. And let me interject. So when you're talking about church folk, and it matters not what your denomination is, we are so myopic and so focused on what we want from God and what we want our life to look like that we're not paying attention to the person sitting to our right and to our left. We're not paying attention. We're not paying attention when we ask somebody, well, how are you? Well, something prompted you to ask them that, but then we have the attention span of a gnat. I'm not kidding. And we don't even stay checked in to hear the response. If they don't act like their hair is on fire, we're off to something else. You know what I'm saying? And that's not God. That's not, let me tell y'all something. That's not God. I can be going about my day. If he drops somebody in my spirit, you're going to hear from me right then. Because apparently something's going on right now. And I've done that just the past couple of days. And every person that I've reached out to said, it is so good to know somebody is thinking about me. We've got to be more in tune to what God is saying for us to do. And stop being so focused on just building our own, whatever it is we're working on. Even if it's something that he's given us to do. That is no excuse to neglect the people around us. And we've got to do better. We have got to do better. And we've got to hold people accountable. All right. So if you, I'll tell you something else. Y'all ready? Listen. I don't care if you got flyers for every Sunday in the month, every Wednesday. I don't care if you got a conference going on twice a month. If that spouse ain't never with them, if they flying around the country and around the world with this global mandate by themselves all the time, something ain't right. Something ain't right. Something ain't right. And especially if they feel relieved, right? Because they don't want to go home. Okay, so I'm just saying. They don't want, please invite me to speak. In Zimbabwe, yay, okay? I'll go anywhere because I don't want to go home. And I need a legitimate reason not to be home. And so we've got to pay attention. So we know people in common who, one of them said to me, I knew her when all of this was going on and I had no idea. So people don't know what to look for. People don't know what to look for. The other thing is, you can get over the top rave reviews and pages and pages of acknowledgement on Facebook, and it can mean absolutely nothing. Because if you saying that, but the person looks sad and depressed, something wrong. They don't look happy. You can look at people's body language. Okay, you don't have to be a prophet. You don't have to be. You just have to pay attention. You just have to pay attention. There were a couple of instances. The thing that started me in earnest in terms of advocating about domestic violence is something that I've always had strong feelings about. It's something that I've always been outspoken about. But God just put this thing down in my heart. When the teacher in San Bernardino was murdered by her husband in her classroom, in her special ed classroom. There was just something about that thing. I've been a principal in a special education facility where all the kids were special ed, right? And so I'm familiar with the classroom setting. And I love kids. And they'd only been married 2 months and she moved out. Now, do y'all know how long it takes for a woman to come to the conclusion that she needs to leave? They were only married 2 months. And she moved out. All right? Within weeks of her moving out, he murdered her and ended up shooting 2 children in the classroom who were standing behind her. One of those little boys died. Then he turned the gun on himself in front of these children. But his Facebook page was something like this. My wife is so wonderful. She knows just how to get my attention. She's beautiful. She's my angel. And he killed her days later. So you can't even fall for how amazing she is, because she could be catching hell at home. Okay?
Yep.
Catching hell at home. And I know in my situation, I never got denigrated publicly. I was always amazing and this and that and the other, because a narcissist, a sociopath, an abuser, someone with an abusive personality wants to be connected to somebody that they can boast about. wants to be connected with someone that is highly thought of, because it's something for them to conquer. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? It's something for them to conquer. They not wasting their time on somebody that ain't got nothing and they don't have no potential and ain't going nowhere. They're not doing that. They want something that they can break down, something that they can gain control over. Okay, and that's what they want. That's what they want. Okay, so it's interesting to me that you talk about him hitting you when you were kids, and you've always noticed the rage like under the surface, right? And you were always careful not to date anybody that was blatantly like your father in terms of how he treated your mother, despite the fact that you adored him. And people might say, well, how is that the case? And he adored you. You are the first person that I have ever heard say exactly what my experience was. I adored my father. I went everywhere with him. I went places with him I ain't had no business being. They had arguments about the places he took me, okay? And I went to the bar with him, to the bar. I was a little bitty girl. He had to pick me up to sit me on the bar stool. And I remember it would spin around, and it was called the Old Folks Home in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He took me everywhere. I could have whatever I wanted. Water ice, whatever I wanted. He took me to baseball games. We read the newspaper together. I would sit in his lap and watch the news. But he was horrible to my mother. And what that does is it causes confusion. And it causes confusion because, so this is what love looks like, right? This is what love looks like. They can act like this, but they can still be nice. And what it does is it reinforces really the cycle of abuse, because you have this honeymoon phase, then you have the escalation, then you have the explosion, okay? And it goes around and around. So you are primed for an abusive relationship coming out of your parents' house, if that's the case. So it's not good enough, women. It's not good enough, men. It's not good enough that he's a good father. It's not good enough that he's attentive to our children. It's confusing because he's not nice to you. Okay, so you're setting them up. You are setting them up to look for, and we've talked about this in previous lives, where children who are exposed to abuse tend to look for that in future relationships. And sometimes it looks like, I want the complete opposite of my father. I don't want anybody that's, opinionated and outspoken and takes us there with it. I want somebody that's quiet and subdued. But what that means is you don't know what's in there. That's what it means. And when you get those little flashes of rage, it's familiar though. And it's not as bad as your father's. You see what I'm saying? It's not as bad as that. So he's okay. And he's nice to me. And he helps me with my homework. And we ride our bike together. And. It's just a hot mess. It is a hot mess. And you don't even know you're jacked up, right? Until you get in it. And it is like, you don't even know. You think you all right. You've got a clear sense in your mind of what you want and what you don't want. What's good and what's not good. You have no idea how jacked up you are. No idea. No, and then the first third of the relationship, when the wheels start coming off the bus, a whole lot of energy, okay? And if some of you are on here that can relate to this, a whole lot of energy is invested in rationalizing.
Oh, God.
Well, he lost his parents at a young age. Well, he was dropped on his head at birth. Well, she didn't know who her mother was. Well, we got all these excuses. And if you really wanted to get crazy, okay, mess around and be in the church. Any church. Just mess around. That is the icing on the crazy cake, okay? Now you're going to stay in it because somebody misappropriates scripture and explains to you that, God loves us. We've all been delivered from something. All these reasons to stay in a crazy situation. So much of what you shared already is so pertinent. And I hope that you all are listening and think about your own situation. Think about it. The fact that your father wasn't mean to you doesn't mean that he was right. Okay? And like I said, my father thought that the sun rose and set with me. My siblings always said I was his favorite. I was the one that would smack him with a pillow to make him come after me so he could get his hands from around my mother's neck, I would do that. I probably was the only one in the house that could get away with it, okay? But I would do things like that to give her time. I know I couldn't beat him, but to give her time to protect herself better, or to lock the bedroom door, or to call her brothers, or whatever it is that she needed to do. But I didn't have no business being a strategist at the age of 5 or 6.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? And so strategizing is one of my strongest suits right now, but I've been doing it my entire life. And that is why. Okay? So fast forward, you all got married, and then a week after, for those of you who are just coming on, listen to this. A week after she got married.
A week.
1 week. They moving, but she doing all the heavy lifting. And he's sitting on the couch staring, and had the nerve to make a sandwich or something and leave a mess. And he didn't help her. 1 week in. Now, you don't get no warning much sooner than that. Okay, that right there was a...
walked out that door right to
right,
my mama's house.
right.
But no, I want to make it work. And that's the thing. That's part of the problem in the church.
Yes.
Is that we want it to work because God hates divorce. I want my... Because here's the thing. Here's the bottom line. Nobody gets married to get a divorce.
Right. Right.
Nobody does. So you're thinking, this is some things that we're just going to work through, and we're going to work out, and if we work together, and if we both give, and we both apply ourselves and work at the marriage, we'll work through these rough edges and bumps and bruises and get past it and have a wonderful relationship. But I tell this to people all the time: you cannot love a person enough for the both of y'all.
Right.
If you are in a relationship and you are the only one that's giving and doing, that is going to get old, and it's going to get old fast.
Right.
And then you're going to look around and say, well, where's mine? And I used to say this to my ex-husband all the time: because I don't require much, you think I don't require anything. So you don't give me anything. I don't require much. I'm self-sufficient. I knew that. I could do stuff by myself. I had friends and family and all of that kind of stuff, but I do require some things, and he didn't want to give anything. And then because that went on for so long, it just became a part of our life and a part of our routine.
Right.
And we argued every day. I mean, really, for real, pretty much every single day, and I would say to him, you just don't like getting along, because we could be getting along 2 days, 3 days, and you do something, and then we back at square one. And I used to tell him all the time, I started counting the days. We got up to 6 days a few times, but we never made a 7. We never made 7 days without. I'm not talking about we're arguing over who gonna take the trash out. I'm talking about just big blow. It could have been who gonna take the trash out, but it would blow up to something like you cut up all the furniture. It would just be crazy. It would be nothing. I had a friend of mine tell me the other day. She said, I remember when y'all were arguing over some shrimp.
Shrimp.
Over shrimp.
Okay.
Shrimp. Just anything. I'm telling you, it would just escalate to a big blown up drama, and that's why I hated going home. I hated to hear his key when I was at home, and I would hate to hear his key jingle at the door. I hated to hear his car pull up in the summertime, and I could hear the music and know that he's pulling up. I hated it. Absolutely hated it. But yet, lived in that house.
But yet.
With him. Yet, had conjugal visits.
Right.
Yet cooked and cleaned and paid bills and was miserable. I was miserable every single day. I was miserable every single day in that relationship.
Now, what's interesting, and this is important for people to understand. It's not about if they're hitting you or not. It's not about that. It's not about, my mama said the first time he hit me, leave. Okay. I'm saying. That joker put their hands on you, you should have been gone, okay?
Yep.
When they do that, it's almost like, what you still doing here, okay? You should have been gone. Should have been gone. But we have to understand that all this other, the withholding, the not offering help is abusive, right? It doesn't matter that you can go everywhere you want to go. It doesn't matter that you don't have financial issues, that the check gets deposited in the thing. When did that become the standard by which we measure the quality of a relationship? Well, they bring their money home, and they always come home and sleep here. But if you hate the fact that they're coming home, or if you have to force yourself to go home, or if you think going and hanging out in Walmart is preferable, I mean, okay, what else needs to be said? Okay, you don't want to go home. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Now, it's not always that it's conscious, but if you've developed this pattern of you staying out later and later, and it's not things that have to be done. It's not things that you don't have control over. And you get this feeling of dread when you hear their voice, or when they call you and you see their number in the phone, or something is wrong. Stop and check that. Like, why am I responding this way? Why am I feeling this way? This is the person that I've chosen to be in a relationship with. I've invested my time, my life with. Maybe I'm sexually intimate with them. Maybe I'm not. That's not even the most important thing. Okay? Emotional abuse is devastating. And what it does is it sets the stage for the physical abuse. It makes sure you are primed, right, to accept the physical when it comes. Because 9 times out of 10 it's coming. 9 times out of 10 it's coming. And if it doesn't come, because they become physically aggressive, the emotional abuse can take such a toll that you want to hurt yourself. You want to hurt yourself. Listen, let me tell you, the devil don't care which one of y'all hurts you. He just wants you hurt.
That's right.
He don't care who does it. He don't care if it's because you getting emotionally mistreated and now you feel like you're not worth nothing and life is too hard and da-da-da-da. He don't care if you do it or if they do it. He just wants it done. He wants to abort your purpose, and he wants to abort your destiny in the earth. That's his assignment. That's what he's on. He don't care which one of y'all does it. He don't care if it happens because you don't leave. He don't care if you wrap yourself up in a scripture to justify a stand. He don't care. He wants you in it until you are destroyed. That's his objective. That's his objective, okay? So when you look at how you grew up and what the atmosphere was like in your home, what you observed from your mother, the continuing to take care of your father and to minister to him is what we would say in the church, take care of his needs and, take care of the children and continue to give and give and give despite how she was being treated. So you learned that that's what you were supposed to do. That's what was lived out in front of you, right? And it doesn't make our parents bad people.
No.
Okay? My mother's one of the toughest women I ever met in my entire. I don't know how she put up with him, but as long as she did. Okay? I have no idea. I don't even know how she did that. Okay? But when she made her up her mind that we were leaving, that's what we did. And she was done. She was done right then. And she was afraid of my father. And she should have been because of what he was capable of. Okay? So domestic violence is not a superficial, one-dimension thing. It is so complex. It is so complex on so many levels. Okay, so how long were you married to him?
We were married 24 years, a little bit over 24 years.
Did y'all hear that? 24 years.
Yeah.
24 years of what she just described. 24 years.
24.
And so what happened then? What?
Well, the breaking point was just all of this stuff just was constant, and he was just, and I want to stress this too to you guys. I can remember the day that I stopped loving him. I can remember it like it happened yesterday. I stopped, but I still had another baby. We bought another house, several cars, went on vacations, the whole nine. But I had stopped loving him. I lost my mother's only sister, my mother, and my sister above me, all within 3 months, in the 6 month span. My aunt in March, my mother in May, and then my sister in September. And in September, everybody was at my house. And he came in from work, and I was on the phone, and when I got off the phone, I was on the phone in the bedroom, and I told him, I said, when you change clothes and everything, I said, I fixed your plate. I said, you see all that food in there? And he said, yeah. I said, I fixed your plate and put it in the microwave. I said, so when you change clothes and all of that and eat, I said, can you take Belinda, my sister's stuff, to the funeral home, right? And he loved the sister. He loved her. And I said, all of her stuff is in a bag in the dining room in the corner. And he said, why you can't take it? I said, well, you see all these people in the house. I can't leave them. He said, well, why my older sister couldn't take it? I said, well, you know she can't drive. He knows she doesn't drive.
Right.
And I told him, I said, well, you know she don't drive. He said, well, I'm not taking it. I was like, but I need you to take it. I can't just leave it. If you want it taken there, you take it yourself. He went in the room, he changed his clothes. He left. He went and got on the bus, rode downtown to our flats, went to the game room and to the restaurant. It'll come to me in a minute.
Shut up.
People that sell Jack Daniels. He went to Fridays. He went to Fridays, and he went to the game room that was down there. He never touched the food in the microwave. Do you know I had to leave those people in my house and go and take my sister's things to the funeral home, crying all the way. I was crying so bad I couldn't even see in front of me.
That
That's
is
the day
incredible.
that I stopped loving him. That day.
That's incredible.
And so people, I say this all the time. People never know what goes on behind closed doors. They can assume whatever they want to assume, but you never know. You never ever know. You know, I had to come to church. Why did I stay? Why did I allow this man to treat me like that? I love me. I have never been a low self-esteem. And he couldn't do nothing with my self-esteem. My father took care of that. I was never a low self-esteem girl.
Wait.
You know, I remember, I'm just saying, I remember the last time I asked him, because I used to beg him to do stuff with me. And it didn't dawn on me that I was begging him. Right. So the last time I remember he said that he wasn't or whatever it was, and I walked out our bedroom and I turned around. I hit the hallway. I turned back around and I said, look at me. And he wouldn't. I stood in front of the TV and I gently took his face and I held it up in my hand. I said, look at me. I said, I'm not the prettiest peach on the tree. I said, and neither am I the ugliest. I said, I don't have to beg a man to do anything for me. I don't have to beg a man to give me nothing or go anywhere with me. And I will never beg you again. And I walked out, and that was the last day that I asked. I would say, I'm doing such and such. If you want to go, let me know. If you didn't, peace. And that's how I went. I started vacationing with friends and girls, all of that. That was it with me. And so, you know, I still stayed. I'm like, why did you allow this man to do all of this stuff to you for so long? It was continual. What was going on with you? See, I can say all that stuff about him, and every last thing I said to y'all is true. Everything I put in the book is true, and everything I ain't said is God's honest truth. But why did I
There you go.
allow that?
Right.
What was going on with me? What was my issue? So I was saying initially, you know, the boys need their father because he wasn't terrible to them, just like my father wasn't terrible to me.
And just like mine wasn't terrible to me. Right.
Yep, he was terrible. He wasn't terrible to them. He was terrible. Well, the boys, they boys.
Right.
They didn't ask to come here. They need their daddy. All of that. But when I did some soul searching, and I call it self-eval, the Bible says if you examine yourself, you will not be condemned with the world. God will not judge you if you judge your own self.
Judge your own
and when I
self.
did some self-eval, I started listening to me. Why did you allow this? What was going on in you? And the root of it all was I was afraid to be on my own.
Wow.
I wasn't afraid to be alone because he had already made me alone in a relationship.
Right.
And one of the saddest things is being married and being alone.
Yes.
And it is a lot of Christian women that fall into that category.
Yes.
I was one of them. But my issue was I did not want to be on my own because I had never been on my own. And I was terrified. And the enemy had painted a picture in my head that me and my children would live up under a bridge. And I'm telling y'all, I would see it just as clearly. We was up under this bridge. I had this big old barrel with fire come out trying to put little dirty little. I'm telling you, I just saw all that in my head. And I was petrified of that being our story. But when I was done, I didn't care if that was our story.
Right.
When I was done, when I chose me over children, over status, over what somebody thought,
Right.
over what they was gonna say about me. When I chose me over the church say if she gets married, she's gonna still be an adulteress. When I chose me over all of that foolishness,
right.
I was done. I walked away. I didn't care who said what, because I determined nobody had a heaven or hell to put me in, and nobody lived in this house with this man and experienced this type of abuse but me.
Right.
And everybody else can kick rocks or suck lemons or do whatever they do, because I was done with that.
Kick rocks while sucking lemons. Hey, don't multitask.
Don't multitask. And so when
Lord.
I finally had enough, I remember
You're getting.
it was real bad.
There you go. Okay.
It was real bad. And one of those times, I want to share this before I get to the end of the story. When it was real bad, one of those times, I remember sitting at my dining room table and tears streaming down my face, and I was talking to God. I was like, you got to help me. If you don't help me, I just won't have none. You got to fix this, fix me. At this point, there's something need to happen, right? And I've never been the person that just opened my Bible and say, God, speak to me. That has never been me. I always read my Bible systematically. And, I started Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, to Revelation, Genesis through Malachi. That's how I read. But this particular night, I said, God, I need a word from you. I need you to speak to me. And I opened my Bible. And when I opened my Bible, I began to read the 30th chapter of Proverbs. And when I got to verse 21 through verse 23, which reads, for 3 things the earth trembles, and under 4 it cannot bear up. For a servant when he is king, a fool when he is filled with food, for an unloved woman when she is married.
Wow.
I looked at that, those words floated off the paper at me, and the Spirit of the Lord said to me, you are an unloved wife. That's how I got the title of the book.
Wow, that's powerful.
He told me I was an unloved wife.
That's powerful.
He told me when I was formulating the book and all of that, driving down the street, wasn't even thinking about nothing. Just nothing. Just knew I was going to write the book and all of that. And the Spirit of the Lord said to me, the unloved wife, she has no ethnicity. She's female. That's why it was so very, very important to me to have a diverse group of women on the cover of the book. Because she ain't black, she ain't white, she ain't Puerto Rican, she ain't Chinese, she ain't Japanese. She is female. Abuse comes in all sorts of shades.
Yes.
It's not just one particular race of people. Don't let nobody tell you that lie. It's not one denomination of people. It's not happening in the bush only in Africa. It's happening right here in the United States. It's happening to some of the churches of the people that are listening to me. It's happening to some of the people that are listening to me.
Yes.
She is a female. And so when this female was done with being the unloved wife, I asked him for a divorce. And I remember talking to my youngest son, and I said to him, I said, Ramel, I said, me and your daddy won't be together forever. And he said, yeah, I see that. And I said, Ramel, I said, how you feel about it? He said, Mommy, all I know is we gonna be good. I said, we gonna be good, Ramel? He said, yeah, we gonna be good. That was the first son. The second son, when I said it to him, and he was the one that I was most worried about, my middle son. And he said to me, Mommy, I know that. And I said, how do you feel about it? And he said to me, it is what it is. But then the 17-year-old pointed his finger at me and said, but you don't deserve to live the rest of your life being miserable.
Wow.
That was it for me.
Wow.
And so my oldest son, I never ran that down because he was away at college. And that following, that day, when I said that to Ryan, my ex-husband came home from work and I asked him for a divorce. And he was like, you don't want a divorce. I was like, oh, yeah, I do. I'm done. I can't do this no more. I was doing this back and forth. This merry-go-round, I am done. And he was like, no, we gonna do it. We gonna work it out. And he cried. He did all of that. And all that was fine. I could care less about any of that. And I told him, I said, you know, I've seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
I am done. I am done.
Mm-hmm.
And right after, a few days later, well, actually, it happened. I asked him for the divorce after this, but what started off was my best friend passed away on his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a poet, and at her homegoing service, she wrote a poem. And on the back of the poem, they were reading it, and she had this phrase in there, and I know she only wrote it for me because it didn't make sense for any of the other parts of the poem.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband is an absolutely wonderful man. He is currently married to my sister-in-law. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I have a family but an unhappy home.
Wow.
And I was crying. And when I heard those words, them tears dried up on my face.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat up. And I said, though, and I thought I had just started. I said, those will not be the last words that anybody hear from me. And my girlfriend sat next to me. She said, what did you say? And I said to her, I didn't say anything. But I got to thinking, I got an unhappy home. I don't want an unhappy home. And that following week is when I started asking the boys. And then I asked my ex-husband for a divorce. And so I told him, which I tell women all the time, listen, if you're going to leave, leave. Don't tell nobody you're leaving.
Right.
Leave. Because you don't know what is going to snap, crackle, and pop in their mind.
Right.
You just leave.
Right.
And I knew I had to escape him. I knew it. I knew I just couldn't walk out the front door. So I told him that I was going to stay until our son, who was in the 12th grade, graduated from high school, and we had his graduation party. But in reality, I was leaving on the 30th of June. I had 2 men in the truck already booked, and all my people had taken their vacation day. And when he left for work, we was back in the truck and I was getting up out of there.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't occur. I'm thinking I need to give him some time, you know what I'm saying, so he can get himself together. I told him I didn't want the house. I did not want the house. You can have the house. When you're ready to walk away, you can have all this stuff. And I wasn't even taking everything. I was taking my son's clothes, our clothes. We could have slept on the floor. I just wanted out. That's it.
So at that point, you weren't even concerned about the whole bridge situation. You were like,
oh no,
bridge, here we come, because I can't do this. I can't do this.
Up under the bridge was better than living in there with him.
Mm-hmm.
For real. Mm-hmm. And so, long story short, he said, you know, okay, eventually, and you know, he told me he didn't want me to put him on child support, that he was going to open up an account and put the boys' money in there, and all of that was fine, because I didn't want him to be on child support. I wanted him to work and find somebody that could love him, because I knew, and he could love, because I knew he didn't love me, and I didn't love him, because nobody loves anybody and treat them the way he treated me.
Right.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Love don't hurt. I don't care whose love it is. It does not hurt.
Right.
And so everything was going, you know, it was a little tumultuous a little bit and everything, just a little bit. And I came in the house on December 7th, to make a very long story short, and you guys go buy the book to hear the rest of it. But I came in the house on December 7th. He was there, and my boys weren't. And I told him that I was going to go to church because I saw it on him. I saw. I just can't even explain to you guys what I saw. I saw the eagle. I saw it. And I told him I was going to church with my girlfriend, but I was going to make some chili. And when our boys come home, to have them get the groceries out of the car, because this is December 7th. And I remember going into our bedroom, starting browning my meat, going to our bedroom, looking for me something to wear. And I remember thinking when I was browning the meat that I should wear a sweater as opposed to a blouse, because we had a mild winter that year, and I didn't have to wear such a heavy coat. And I was looking on the shelf in our bedroom, because that's where I kept my sweaters. And the next thing I hear is the ER doctor asking me did I know where I was. My ex-husband strangled me out. Left me on our bedroom floor dying. And those were his words, not mine, when I heard the 911. tape recording. God gave him enough sense to call 911, and they had to kick my door in and literally resuscitate me on the bedroom floor. I don't remember having an MRI. I don't remember CAT scan. I don't remember any of that. I remember coming up out of whatever I was in, and that only occurred because they had to give me a shot of adrenaline to bring me up out of that. And both the ER doctor and my doctor the next day when I went to visit her said had he kept his hands around my neck 10 seconds longer, I wouldn't be here. And he escaped. He left for 5 days, I believe. And he came back and turned himself in, and he got bonded out $5,000 and paid $500 and got out. And I had a protective order and all of that, and he broke it every which way you can break it. And then eventually he followed me and he hit me with a car. And I'm going to stop right there because you guys have to buy the book to see how miraculously, bless your name, God. The God of the universe rescued me out of his hands. And currently he is serving 11 years in prison. He got 9 for the hit, 2 for the strangulation, which says a whole lot with that. He got 9. He plea bargained with 9, and the 2 years, the judge could have given him 2 to 10, and she chose to give him 2 because I'm a black female, and for real, our lives really don't matter. But you have to take your life into your own hands, and it has to matter, and your children's lives have to matter, and your girlfriends and your mothers and your brothers' lives, they have to matter. And when we see stuff that's off, we got to say something. People saw stuff that was off, and then I would tell people. I started telling people, and I felt like I had nobody to come to my defense. It took me a very, very long time to tell my father, but when I did, he didn't come to my defense either. I felt like I was there all alone. I had nobody to protect me. I was involved in this situation, and I didn't know how to get out, and I had no help. But when it was over, God says, this is over. This is the end. You're done. And people with all of our different denominations and theories and Bible, whatever, philosophies about divorce and all of that. I'm telling you, I never tell anybody to divorce anybody. You have to come to that conclusion yourself. You do. But what I do know is God hates divorce, but God hates mistreatment. God hates negligence. God hates abandonment. God hates adultery. God hates all that. God hates physical abuse.
That's it.
God hates all of that.
That's it.
And for me, God released me. He gave me a supernatural release out of my marriage way before I asked for the divorce. I didn't even know when the divorce was coming, but I knew. And I detailed all that in the book as well. I knew that this was over with. And I wasn't going to cry no more tears over it. It was a done deal. I had bottomed out. And you have to come to that conclusion for yourself. But when men see other men, and you're in a relationship with this guy, whether it's your brother, your deacon, your elder, I don't care who it is, and you see him doing something that's contrary to what the scripture says. The scripture says that a husband ought to love his wife like Christ loved the church. No man ever hates his own self, but he nurtures it and he cherishes it. If you don't see nurturing and cherishing, and you see stuff that's off, you need to pull a brunt to the side. And say, look, man, that ain't cool. So men can know that somebody else's eyes is on them. You know what I'm saying? We don't have any accountability in the church. We just go pray and throw some oil on you, and folks go home to devils and demons. And when we prayed and threw the oil, but that still does not, change the fact that woman has to go be called out out of her name, or financially abused or neglected,
Right.
and or a man, because it happens to men
It
too.
happens to men too, or sexually assaulted. You know, even in a marriage,
assaulted.
and it doesn't even have to be a
Yeah.
married relationship. The way society has evolved today, you know, it can be a live-in partner. Okay, so you know what's fascinating to me about your story is the fact that you've known him practically your whole life. You know, like from the time that you were 13. So this is not someone that you met on, you know, Black Christians Meet. You know what I'm saying? This is not somebody that you met on some website that was secretly in the witness protection program and you didn't know none of his people. That's not what happened here. That is not what happened here. You know what I'm saying? And so people need to understand that this can happen in any relationship. All you need is one person with an abusive personality to be part of that relationship, right? And as you also emphasized, being physically abused wasn't a commonplace, something that happened all the time. You know what I'm saying? You walk to your bedroom closet and the next thing you remember is you're in the ER.
Right.
You don't remember nothing else, okay? Now, let me tell y'all something. Once a critter, because it can be a critterette, it can be a critter. Once they put their hands around your throat, statistically, you have a 70% more likelihood that they are going to murder you. That person is going to kill you. 70%.
Wow.
Just because they had the gall to do that. So they've already crossed the they've crossed a barrier that you can't even see. That barrier been crossed by the time they put their hands around your neck. And it's been so bad in the United States that over the past 10 or 15 years, many states have made it a felony to even do that. Because people were getting killed, men and women, by strangulation. Here's another thing. Stop calling it choking. Choking is when you bite an apple and it gets lodged in your throat.
Right.
You're trying to nourish your body. You are not trying to kill yourself. You are eating an apple. It gets stuck in your throat. The Heimlich maneuver, in most cases, will solve that problem. Strangulation is when they put their hands around your throat with the intention of impeding your airflow.
Yes.
We got to call things what they actually are and stop minimizing them by the way we define them. We have to understand that a lot of times the way we are brought up is what sets us up for these situations, okay? Whether it is that your father was mean to your mom or your mom was mean to your dad, but they both doted on you, whether that means that they were mean to everybody in the house, whatever that means, it traumatizes us. Trauma rewires the brain. When you are exposed to repeated trauma, your physical brain, okay, I'm not being deep and mystical and spiritual here, your physical brain changes in volume. It shrinks. This is a medically established fact. It shrinks. Its capacity, its ability to comprehend, to make decisions, to discern between good and bad is jeopardized and it's undermined. So now the only thing that you have to make a decision with, your brain is getting smaller and smaller because you're in a situation in which is being exposed to trauma all the time. So the longer you stay, the more difficult it is to get out. The more difficult it is to get out. Now, when you consider what an abuser is capable of, a woman on average will leave 7 times before she leaves for good. The problem is she going to have 7 times? Is he going to give her 7 times? There's a good possibility that he won't. The other thing that Rosalyn said, and you all know, you've heard me say it often, quit telling people you leaving. Stop that.
Right.
Listen, I know your mama was amazing and your grandmama was amazing, okay? I know that. But that was the generation that would get a beat down and not tell nobody, okay? Let's just be for real. Everything that happens in this house stays in this house, okay? So I understand that's what you were taught. That's what I lived out. That's what I was taught. But do you know what? I came to the conclusion, the devil is a lie. This is not my life. This is not my life. And she said this when she chose herself. Let me tell y'all something. Bishop Anthony Hatcher, and he was on here earlier. Then we had technological difficulties. He said something to me many years ago, and this is all he said. He said, Pastor Cheryl, you only have one decision to make, and that's between that relationship and your destiny. And when he said that, that thing penetrated me to the core of who I am. It penetrated me to the core of who I am, and it impacted me in such a way that I understood, not only do I need to get out of this, it's okay for me to get out of this. It's okay for me to get out of this. This is not what God intended. The fact that we make a decision does not mean that he was in it. Okay? We have free will. He sends warning. That's what he's obligated to do. We, based on how we grew up, we, based on our heart condition, what we decide we want, we, based on our fears, decide to stay in it or get out of it. That does not mean that he wants us in it. That's not what that means. Let me tell you something. I'm a prophet. Rosalyn's a prophet. If you stand in front of us and we tell you you're going to get married and have 10 children, that don't mean that's what God wants you to do. That means that if you don't change the way you're doing things right now, that's where you'll end up. That's what that means. That's what that means. I'm going to say it again. The fact that a prophet said it to you, and he can be a real one, okay? The fact that a prophet said it to you does not mean that's what God wants you to do. He's letting you know he knows what you're going to do if your heart condition doesn't change. Does not mean he co-signs it. Does not mean he set that up. And I'm going to tell y'all something else. Quit counting on these people's pastors vouching for them.
I know that's right. Say that again.
Quit counting on these people's pastors vouching for them. Alright? Okay? I'm trying to help somebody. I'm trying to help somebody. Okay? I know I'm saved because I'd have gone back and boxed somebody's ears for all the vouching that was done. Okay? No. We've got to learn how to listen to what we call our gut instinct, right? And physically, see, God knows everything. Physically, and you ain't got to have a relationship with Jesus for this to work, okay? We are wired that even in our stomachs that we think is just relegated for processing food, right? We got nerve endings in there that will let you know when something's not right. It'll let you know.
That's right.
Something not right. Something not right. I'm feeling a little weird in my stomach. Something's not right. And we call it a gut feeling. That's a physiological response to something in your environment being a detriment to you. That's what it is. We have a responsibility to figure out what that is so that we can make a sound decision about engaging or not engaging. Okay, now, if you read her book, I'm telling you, fasten your seatbelt. Just fasten your seatbelt. Because there is no way in creation she ought to be on this live with me right now. Okay? There's like, there ain't no way in the world. There's no way. There's no way. Okay? Now, when you find yourself in a situation, check your thought life. What are you telling yourself? Are you trying to make it okay? Are you using scripture? Are you only talking to people who are going to tell you to stay? And just pray about it. And it'll be okay. And you know, we all have our trials, okay? If that's the case, you should have a peace about it. While you being cussed out, you should be at peace getting called out your name. You should be at peace getting slapped upside your head, okay? If you don't have peace, if that thing is causing you anguish, something's wrong. Something's wrong. And I'm telling you, God does not require that of you. He does not. And for those of you, the men that are on here, and you know you have male friends who have girlfriends, who have female acquaintances, it can be their mama, it can be their sister, it can be an intimate partner, and you know they're coming out the side of their neck. You know they're not treating them right. If you're not saying nothing, I'm looking at you sideways. Like, what's wrong with you? We know what's wrong with them. What's your issue? What are you afraid of? Why won't you say something? Okay? What is it about you that gives you the right not to say something?
Right.
I'm not gonna not say something. I'm not gonna not say something. That dog ain't hunting. His hind legs are too short. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it, okay? I'm not doing it. You are not gonna mistreat somebody and think I ain't gonna say something. I'm gonna say something. I got a whole lot to say about it. I have a whole lot to say about it. All right? So on average, a woman will leave 7 times before she stays gone. Because of trauma bonding, it's a bad idea to, like, badger someone into leaving. Badger someone into leaving. Because they haven't really left in here. They haven't left. And so they're going to go back. And when they go back, they're going to pay for having left in the first place. You understand what I'm saying? They're going to pay for having left in the first place. And so it's hard to watch. You know, and this is why I thank God for my, because sometimes I just get on my face. God, stop that joker. I'm just like, I just need for you to stop him. That's it. I just, you know. And I've shared my testimony with you all. And something that I don't talk about often is, you know, with my situation, there were 3 or 4 different times that he attempted to kill me. He had a contract out on me. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? A contract. Like in the movies. Imagine somebody coming to you and saying to you, like, I couldn't even believe it. And the person who was supposed to kill me told me.
Oh, Lord.
They said, because they were a homeless person, they said, you know, we just thought about the fact that after church you would always come down here and bring us food, and you never made us feel, you know, like we were less than, or that you were better than us or anything. And we just let him know if something happened to you, something was going to happen to him. It took me the longest kind of time to wrap my head around this critter is trying to get me killed. So there was that. There was the kidnapping incident. There was overinflating all of the tires on my car. And then badgering me about driving cross country where they were. And I was like, why is it so critical that I do that right now? Like, it just didn't feel, you know what I'm saying? It was like snowing, and I'm thinking, why? It's just you pushing too hard, and what is that about? So I'm gonna be the obedient spouse, right? Y'all listening? I took my car to get it serviced, because that's what my daddy taught me. Okay, you going on a long trip and you make sure the car is all right, right? So interesting how they keep popping up. So I went to get the car to get an oil change, and they said, "Ma'am, why you got so much air in your tires?" I said, "Excuse me?" I had way too much air. Check this out. In all 4 tires. Check this out. The same amount, too much, in all 4 tires. All right, somebody asked me when the last time I put some air in them tires. Go ahead. I ain't putting no air in no tires. So you overfilled my tires in the middle of winter, and you're badgering me every couple hours about when am I getting on the road. So my question was, well, was I supposed to get there? So I'm thinking, I'm going to drive a couple thousand miles on some overinflated tires in the dead of winter. I just want to know, was I supposed to get there? That's all I want to know. Okay? It does something to you when someone that you have loved, right? And someone that you have put first has decided that your life has no value, or that they have the power to determine how long you should breathe. There's something about that.
Yeah.
And it can take you in one or two directions, okay? It can take you straight over the edge. It can. It's that debilitating. Or you can say, you know what, devil? No. No, there ain't no in between. Because it's too devastating. There's something about that. There is something about that. What we want you to know is there is life on the other side of that. But you've got to get to the other side. And it's a decision that you have to make. It's a decision that you have to make. For me, as an advocate, it is hard sometimes because when I'm talking to people, and they may not even be a Christian, I'm a prophet all the time. I see. I'm seeing the whole time you talking, I'm seeing stuff that you didn't even tell me. I'm seeing all of that. I'm seeing the enemy's plan for you if you stay where you at. I'm seeing all of that. And I can't tell you, well, that's what you need to do, is you just need to get out. Because that's not, that's going to have a boomerang effect. That's not going to work. And you'll end up feeling isolated. So I need for you to keep talking to me. I need for you to keep talking to me so that I can know what I need to be praying about, and so that you are not isolated. So whether you choose to stay right now, I'm not judging you. Listen, I get it. I did all of that. The scriptures, I did all of that. The crying, listen, fasting, turning your plate down. I don't know how much weight I lost doing that. And you know what? Let me tell y'all something. When I broke my fast, they were still a critter, okay? Me fasting didn't change their critter-like behavior. It did not.
No.
It did not. And all of that is like a delaying tactic. And it's a way for us to not take responsibility for where we are now. When I look back on my own life, I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to do that. I did not have to marry him. I did not have to do that. Didn't nobody make me. And let me tell you something else. If you think about getting married and you get this unction the night before you get married that you need to go for a long walk, okay, that's an indication. Every way, I'm just, God, what do I do? What if that's a question? Don't you do it here? Don't you do it?
That's right. Please don't do it.
If you got to get confirmation the day before, it's a no. Don't do it.
Yep.
Don't do it. Don't do it. You know, God, the Lord is faithful.
We definitely get the red flag.
Yes.
We get it.
Mm-hmm.
We get it. And while you were talking about the feeling in your stomach, I remember having that feeling on my wedding day.
See?
I remember that. But what could I do? And for a quick second, it like flashed through my mind, like, should I marry him?
Right.
But everything was set. It was time for me to, go and do this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's going to be all right. Everything is going to be all right.
Mm-hmm.
Because, listen, we had an argument on the wedding day. His only responsibility, check this out, his only responsibility was to make sure he had got the drummer. Had got the drummer, and the drummer went to our church, and I had mentioned it to him, and he told me, he was going to be there, he would be able to play. But his responsibility was to confirm that. And I remember asking him that. Just talking to him, didn't see him on the wedding day, but talking to him, asking him, did you talk to the drummer? And he went off.
See?
And I'm like, okay. And
so there's that rage again.
That off to be, I said, oh, he's just nervous because of the day, and, excited and nervous all at the same time because of the day, all of that. And I should have left him where he stood. But,
with or without the drummer.
Being 2020, I wouldn't have my wonderful son. Who are, I love everything about all three of their lives. I wouldn't have my grandgirls, all of that. So I know that even in the midst of this whole thing and everything that I had to go through to get to the place that I am now, that God used everything about it. When I tell you, even though it was my choice, like you said, nobody put a gun up to my head. I would say that. I was like, anybody make me marry him?
Right.
They would have had to put a gun up to my head they would have had to kill me to not marry him. You know what I'm saying? To stop me from marrying him, because I was going to marry him no matter what anybody said. I was marrying him. So then I was like, okay, I got to deal with it. This is my choice. This wasn't forced. This was no shotgun when I did this. I chose this, so I have to deal with it.
Right.
And I know that God used everything about it. He is, when I say everything about it, I'm currently writing a book called The Making of a Prophet. God used this whole situation on so many different levels to make a prophet. And he uses the prophet's life to make them the voice of God if we will allow him to.
Right.
Because what I learned in this whole ordeal is that God does not waste anything, not even pain.
He doesn't waste anything, not even pain.
Wasted.
No.
Not even pain.
No.
Nothing is wasted. And so he uses it all. And I'm telling you that if I had to go through, and I'm telling you, I lived in hell. I did. But if God told me today, right now, we get off this live, and so you got to go through 24 more years of hell today. You got to redo this whole thing today. If he told me that I would be in the place that I am right now, and the only way that I could be in the place that I am right now is that I had to go through the hell, including him hitting me with the car, I would give him the car keys in the middle of the road. Let him hit. That is where I am now. My life, listen, I used to stand up in church, unbeknownst to me, and say, the day is coming that I am going to look at my life and say, whose life is this? That everything about my life will be changed. The whole landscape of my life will be different. I won't even be able to recognize it. And when I tell you that is what has happened, God did it. He did it. And out on the other side of this is victory.
Yes.
Is love. I love again and being loved properly. All of that. Absolutely. And I have no So for real, I'm also writing The Love Wife. I am writing The Love Wife because I am a love wife. And I have experienced both sides of this thing.
Right.
And now I am being treated like the Bible says that I should be. I am being honored like the Bible says that I should be. I'm being nurtured and cherished, just like the Bible says that I should be. But that only came because I chose to forgive him. I believe that with everything in me. In that hospital bed after that hit, and everybody was gone, I laid there with tears streaming down my face. And I said, God, I forgive him. I release him because I had determined that if I did not, that he would hold me in chains for the rest of my life.
Yes.
And he couldn't have any more of my time.
See?
And I believe that's the day when God released my current husband, honey, who is, outside of Jesus Christ and these kids, the best thing that ever happened.
Amen.
To me.
Amen.
That's the truth.
Amen. Listen, let me, I appreciate you sharing your story. Let me reiterate for you all, especially you all church folks, please hear me. Please. Rosalyn said she wished she had a Rosalyn. I wish I had a me when I stepped off into that, whatever that craziness was, because I didn't have a me. So this is why I refuse to shut up. I'm just going, because I love y'all, and this is what I know. The fact that things turn out well, the fact that God uses everything, is not a reflection of our heart condition. It's a reflection of his heart condition, okay?
Yes.
And what we know is he will use whatever we choose. He's not going to allow it to be for nothing. He's not going to allow it to go to waste. And I love what you said, that, he's not going to waste anything, not even pain. But we have to be able to understand that this is not something that he told us to do. And please don't talk to me about Hosea.
Right.
Please don't talk to me about Hosea marrying a prostitute, okay? Because the Bible don't say nothing about her cussing him out and punching him upside his head or strangling him. So we stop it. Just stop.
And then that was for purpose, for divine purpose.
For divine purpose, okay?
That ain't this.
That didn't jeopardize him in any fashion, okay? So the fact that we did it, the fact that somebody prophesied that you was going to get married, means that given your heart condition, this is what's going to happen. That's what it means. So we have to look at how we're defining things. And it doesn't mean that God wanted me to do it. God,
That's right.
We had a decision to make. And let me tell you something that I learned for myself. What determines what we choose in our day-to-day life, in our long-term life, is the actual condition of our heart. Our actual heart condition. Not the one everybody think we got. Not the one that we present at church, right? Our actual heart condition, okay? We will always choose in that moment, and I'm telling you, this is straight from the throne room. We will always choose in that moment the thing that is most important to us in that moment. In that moment. Now, an hour later, you might be sorry you picked it, but when you picked it, that's what you wanted. When you picked it, that was the most important thing to you. When I picked it, it was the most important thing to me. Whether it's because it kind of builds us up and we feel like we're being forgiving, we're being long-suffering, we're being the Proverbs 31 wife, all of that, okay? Because we have decided that a standard that we need to meet out of context, okay, is if we walk in that, we're a success. If we walk in that, we're a spiritual powerhouse. I'm a woman of God if I walk in that. I'm a man of God if I walk in that. Did God tell you to do that?
That's right.
Did he tell you to do it? Okay? There is a way that seems right unto a man, but the way thereof are the ways of death. There's nothing good on the other side of that. So God is amazing, and he will gather up all these broken pieces and cause us to be a blessing to others so that our pain is not wasted. But we don't even deserve that because we chose that situation over his best for us. We chose it over his best for us. Okay? And so just like we chose it, we have a responsibility to choose something else.
That's right.
The longer you stay in it. Now, she did that for 24 years. Listen. 24 years?
That's a long time.
and could go anywhere she wanted to go. He wasn't handcuffing her in the house. You know what I'm saying? He his money came home and all of that.
Yeah.
He's mean and nasty.
He wasn't a cheater.
He didn't cheat.
He wasn't none of that. Actually, it was 24 years, 4 months, and 5 days.
I bet you can tell me how many minutes if I ask, but you know. But the Lord is good. But I'm telling you, you all need to get her book. Get this book. Get this book. Rosalyn, tell them again where you can get it. I know you typed it in the comments.
Yes, you can get the book at www.theunlovedwife.com. Just type in theunlovedwife.com and purchase your book, and it will be shipped right out to you.
I'm telling you, we have to be able to learn from one another's experience. So for those of you who have experienced, you know, an abusive relationship, this is just confirmation that there's a lot of that going on, and that you can rise from the ashes of that. You really, really can.
Yes,
and I
really,
encourage
really
you
can.
to share your story. It takes a lot of courage to share your story, even years after. Okay, that's how you know you're getting delivered for real, because you can talk about that thing without it taking control of you. You know what I'm saying? You can talk about that thing without wanting to go commit a homicide. Okay, you can talk about it without coming out of character. And so when we talk about forgiveness, we're not talking about sanctioning what was done. We're not talking about any of that. Let me tell y'all something. This is going to sound really interesting. Let me tell you what God told me. I went to pray for him, and the Lord said, you can't talk to me about that. I'm not making this up. You cannot. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? You can't talk to me about that. And he told me, and it's not even just about you. He disrespected the anointing on your life.
Yeah.
That's my anointing.
Yeah.
Okay? Some things nobody gets to do. He can't do that. Don't talk to me about him anymore. That's exactly what he said to me. Don't talk to me about him anymore. So I had to release him. Now, y'all want to know what happened after that? Listen, the devil think he's slick. So, ring, ring, ring. I answer the phone. Will you pray for me? I'm not kidding. Will you pray for me?
Hilarious.
I'm looking at the phone like, what? This is not 30 minutes after God tells me I can't talk to him about him no more, right? You can't talk to me, and this is why. Will you pray for me? Absolutely not. That's not just. Sorry, I cannot. The prayer window is closed for you. I've been I can't. So no, and don't call me no more. How about that? So, why do you hate me? I don't hate you. I'm not going to hell behind you. Okay? It don't make no sense for me to leave your tail and still go to hell. That don't make no sense. So, I'm not. I'm going to be free. Okay? I'm not going to hell about you in any form. And that's a guarantee. Okay? I don't have any animosity. I don't have nothing. I got nothing. Okay? I'm just like, done. It's just done. Once you get to that place, you know that you're there. My prayer for you, if you are watching this video and you find yourself in a situation in any of these phases that we've talked about, that you care enough about yourself not to override the warnings. Warning absolutely always comes. Always. God cannot lie. The Bible declares that warning always comes before destruction. Okay? Pride and a haughty spirit will get you acquainted with destruction also. What does pride have to do with this? When I decide I'm going to marry this person no matter what, I'm doing this. I'm honoring my plan for my life no matter what anybody says. That's pride. That's pride. I'm doing this no matter what. That is pride. That's pride. Fasten your seatbelt. Okay? Because that's pride. Okay? That is pride. Fasten your seatbelt and you're not even driving. And the one that is half the time don't like you. Okay? So we have to learn how to listen to warning. And to embrace it, even if we don't like it. No, don't nobody want to be told that the person that you've invested in emotionally is not good for you, or blah, 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 blah. if you find yourself defending them, and as Rosalyn described, if you find yourself covering for them, making excuses, well, where's your husband? You know, she said she got tired of making excuses and covering. And she ended up just saying, well, he just didn't want to come. You find yourself making excuses and justifying their absence, justifying their poor behavior, hiding their poor behavior. You have become complicit in your own abuse.
Yeah.
You have become complicit in your own abuse. And there's a life on the other side of it, but you have to listen. You have to listen. So, if you're in a situation in which you're being mistreated, this is what you need to do. You need to talk to a domestic violence advocate. Now, I am a therapist. Not every therapist can help you with DV. Not every therapist can help you with DV. If you go to the wrong one, they'll be a flying monkey. They'll be the one telling you to stay and work it out. They'll be the one telling you, well, both of y'all come in. Listen, run from that, okay? That's a bad idea. The therapist will tell you, let's do couples counseling, and you telling them that they beating your behind, you don't need to go back to that office no more.
Not no more.
Don't you go back to that office. They're going to mess around and get you killed, okay? So, someone that is skilled in addressing domestic violence, not just your pastor who loves you and prays a powerful prayer and speaks in tongues, that does not make them qualified to address this with you, okay? It does not. It does not. There's so many women in church who are active in church, who teach Sunday school, who are over the music department, who usher, you know, they're a doorkeeper, they're a greeter or whatever. They're there every time the door opens. Preach and prophesy. Right, all of that. And they are in the belly of hell when they go home, and nobody can see that. Nobody can see that, okay? Nobody can see that. And it's that's a problem. Why can't we see it? That's a problem. So, we appreciate you all signing in. I'm encourage you to share this. We appreciate you dealing with our technological difficulties, which were hilarious to me. We got it done anyway. I've got speakers scheduled for the next 2 or 3 weeks who are ready to share their story. And their story is different from her story. And her story may be different from yours. And my story might be different from yours, okay? But what you will find is that there are some similarities. There are things that make us vulnerable to these kinds of relationships in the first place, okay? There are things that make us prone to stay even after we see for ourselves that we need to leave, okay? And I like what Rosalyn said about self-evaluation. Okay, he did this, he did that, he did the other, but what was my issue? Like, why did I let him do this to me for this long, right? And so this is what I encourage people that I see in terms of therapy or as an advocate is I ask them, what is the first indication in that relationship that it wasn't what it should have been? What was the first indication? And they tell me, okay, that wasn't the first one. Think back. What happened before that? They come up with something else. That wasn't it either. Keep going. Keep going. Knowing what you know now, look all the way back. What was the very first time? And usually it takes them 2 or 3 times to get back to the true first indicator. But then, here's what people don't do. Now ask yourself this. What is the lie that I told myself that made it okay? How did I give myself permission to ignore that? You need to know what you're telling yourself that keeps you ensnared. Because they can't do it unless you're complicit. They can't do it unless you're complicit. What are you saying to yourself that causes you to stay? Because here's the thing. In the future, every time you hear yourself say that thing to yourself, you need to stop. Slam on the brakes. I'm doing that again. Why do I need to do that? Okay? So it's not enough to be able to say what the abuser is doing. Why am I tolerating it? What makes me vulnerable to this? And how do I get that turned around? And sometimes we just have to redefine how we're looking at things. Okay? God hates divorce, but he hates all those other sins, just like Rosalyn said. And if you look at Malachi, the 2nd chapter, a whole chapter about how much he hates women being mistreated by their spouses. Nobody, I ain't never heard nobody preach out of that. Have you? They'll talk to you about tithes and offering in the next chapter, but they're not going to talk to you about how God is tired of hearing abused partners cry out to him because of the way they are being treated by their spouses. He despises that. He despises that. Okay? And so I had to come to the conclusion that he hates divorce, but I don't think he'd be okay with me wearing a jumpsuit either. I don't think he wants me to have a prison ministry from the inside either. And I don't think he wants my children to be orphans. So, a DV situation will pull you out of character if you stay. You'll find yourself saying things and doing things that you don't even approve of yourself, which strengthens the enemy's hand, because now he can say, well, okay, I cussed you out, but you cussed me out too. You said something about my mama too. You broke a plate too. You know what I'm saying? And so now what? So now your self-esteem is even further eroded. So if you find yourself in that situation, do not isolate. If you find yourself in that situation, you need a safety plan. If you subscribe to our blog, you'll automatically be sent a template for a safety plan. Even if you're not in a situation, it is so prevalent. Somebody in your immediate circle is in that situation, even if they haven't told you. Okay? And so we have to educate ourselves so we are able to tell people how to best help themselves. Stop telling people, well, just leave. If I was you, I wouldn't let them. One thing about the victim knows what that joker is capable of. They know. Oftentimes because they've been told. They've been told what will happen to them if they leave. Okay? So let's be committed to educating ourselves and being a help to those who are ensnared in domestic violence. It is an epidemic. The World Health Association says it's a pandemic. All right? The United Nations says that the most dangerous place for a woman worldwide is in her own home. We know that men can be victims as well. Okay? So, want you to tune in next week. Want you to get the Unloved Wife. I'm going to suggest that you start reading early so you don't be up all night like I was reading this book. I should have started that early. Because I kept threatening to put it down. I'm going to put it down. We'll stop right. Made a little bookmark and everything. Man, listen. I was reading and writing in the margins. Y'all see that? Highlighting. What in the world? I mean, it was something else. It was something else. All right? So, we love you. Thank you, Prophet Rosalyn Atkinson, for coming on.
Thank you.
Appreciate you sharing your story. It takes a lot of courage, even way on the other side of it. It takes a lot of courage to share it because you have to be willing to look at it again. Those of you who are out there that have a story that you want to share, you can inbox me and let me know. If you need to disguise your identity, whatever you need to do, we can figure it out. Okay? We love you, and we will be back on next week. Check out www.theunlovedwife.com to get your copy of this book. I'm telling you, sit down somewhere before you start reading, and start reading early so you don't be up all night trying to finish it. Okay? Because you ain't going to be able to put it down. We love you. All right? We love you. We love you. We love you. All right? And the Lord loves you more. Blessings to you. We'll be back on next week.